Hello, Cranbrook Kingswood class of 2020. I'm Kevin Adkisson, curator with the Cranbrook Center for Collections and Research, and I'm here from the Kingswood campus. Originally the Kingswood School for Girls, this part of your school opened in 1931, and it was the gift to the community, to the larger world, of Ellen Scripps Booth. She had watched her husband, George, open Cranbrook School for Boys in 1927 and intended to open a girls' school soon thereafter. She wanted to have a school in place by the time her granddaughter came of age to move from Brookside into Kingswood School for Girls. Unlike Cranbrook School for Boys, where George Booth was intimately involved in the architecture and design of the building, here at Kingswood, Ellen Booth trusted Eliel Saarinen and his miraculously talented family, his wife Loya, who designed many of the rugs, their children Aero and Pipson, who designed furniture and color schemes. And so what you have at Kingswood is a complete, total work of art where you have one family designing every single aspect of the school. When Kingswood opened in 1931, its opening was actually delayed because of an outbreak in Michigan of German measles. It was also delayed because the construction of this edifice, which was designed in the summer of 1930, was delayed by about 1 week. It was constructed in just 1 year. It was all Norwegian craftsmen who came over and were the project supervisors, laying the brick and carving the stone. It has a concrete ceiling, and then atop that, the largest copper roof in America. I don't actually know if that's true, but it's certainly in contention. It is a massive work of copper. Saarinen uses the bricks quite decoratively, and you can see the way that he repeats motifs, whether it's this sort of fluted rhythm or the telescoping form, what you might call a ziggurat or stepped pyramid. You see it in the doorway there, you see it in the leaded glass windows, and then it repeats on these lovely columns that form this arcade alongside the dining hall. The building is sandwiched in between Angley Wood, which is the only stand of trees that was on the property when the Booths bought it in 1904. And then on the other side of the building is Kingswood Lake. Unlike at the historic boys' school campus, where Mr. Booth and Mr. Saarinen assumed that students would arrive either on foot from the dormitories as boarding students, or by the trolley running up Woodward Avenue and then a bus that took them from Woodward to the boys' school campus, the girls' school is centered around this auto court. So even though the schools are only 4 years apart, it's a radical rethinking about how transportation was going to get the girls to school every day. The overall motif of the building is very different from the sort of English Oxford or Cambridge-inspired quadrangle. Instead, it is indebted to the architecture of Frank Lloyd Wright, particularly his house designs in the suburbs of Chicago from the late 19th century. Saarinen here uses a low, hipped roof, long rows of windows, and he really builds the building in as one with the landscape. Saarinen divided Kingswood into 3 distinct areas: the dormitories, which are behind what we're looking at now, and then the public area here in the center, anchored on one end with the dining hall and the monumental telescoping chimney, in the center, the lobby, and then on the right, the auditorium. Atop the lobby, running across the full length of the 4th level, is Heaven, which was the ballroom only used in the 1930s. It only has one stairway coming down, so it didn't meet fire code then. It certainly doesn't meet fire code now. The public center is then flanked on this side by the classroom wing. And so here we see the way that Saarinen invites us in. He leads our eye and then our body towards the sculpture by Carl Millis. And then notice the way that the stairs are really quite gentle. It's a very, very slight rise. Saarinen thought that American salad plates were too small and our stairs were too high. And since at Cranbrook he designed both, he gave us little stairs and big salad plates. Once we get into the main covered space here, notice the way that the pathway keeps telescoping and becoming smaller towards the telescoping chimney that's placed off-center of this garden court. Saarinen never gives us true symmetry at Cranbrook. Just like nature, even though that tree looks symmetrical, once you study it, it's highly asymmetrical. Saarinen's buildings often look symmetrical, and then the closer you study them, the more asymmetries you begin to see. This great concrete roof is supported by these solid stone columns, which are carved with these sort of wheat shaft. They look very botanic forms, and these actually are solid limestone columns. There's no steel in here. It's very primitive, very traditional construction within this highly stylized Art Deco botanic form. Also within the roof are these telescoping light fixtures, which then have the wonderful iron details in this rotational symmetry with their arms spinning around. And that is reflected then on the pavement in the way that you see around the central Kingswood crest, this sort of spinning design work in the cast stone pavers. Now, some of my favorite details out here are these brick walls, which have these wonderful stone benches below them. You'll see that here you have a perfect square that is 1 brick deep. Above it, you have 2 bricks that's half a brick deep. And then up above, you have 3 bricks that are flush with the wall. And then on the other side, there is the little Wizard of Oz window where the dean can peek out and see what's happening in the entrance to the school. Now we'll head in. Here in the green lobby, we understand how Saarinen conceived of Kingswood as this total work of art. He coordinated the floors and walls, which were from the Pewabic pottery. His son Arrow designed the furniture, which is sort of Egyptian meets Greek revival. He coordinated with Cranbrook's first sculptor in residence, David Evans, for this Madonna and Child. And she is sitting on a sculptural base designed by Arrow Saarinen and cast at Pewabic, with a little mouse down there in a nod to medieval architecture. Saarinen also designed things like the grate covers, and then his daughter Pipson coordinated the aluminum leaf and aqua stencil around the light fixtures. The anchor of this room is the stairway, which has these Greek revival handholds going up, and then the wonderful scalloped edge stairs. And as you ascend the stairs, you can reach out and grab these little, almost look like baptismal fonts as you head up and see the iridescence of the tiles. And then you get this great wall of glass. And the way that Saarinen brings the frame to this point is really quite beautiful, and it makes the entire window read as if it is a tapestry of glass. As you turn the corner, you see the way that he hid the heating boilers behind ceramic tiles. And then we're walking up the original linoleum floor. And then the entire room is illuminated by this smiling lion from Arrow Saarinen, cast again at Pewabic pottery. And the lion sort of looks out at this great window of glass and black triangles, which would have originally sat opposite a rug that was of a similar design, so that you had hand-woven rugs reflecting the handmade glass. Now, this is still the original floor up here, battleship linoleum. And as we look down the hallway, you see the way that the sort of telescoping design from the chimneys outside repeats inside with the paint calling out these different edges around the door. And all of these different colors change around the school and sort of note where you are in the building. These light fixtures were originally designed by Eliel Saarinen for his own house over on Academy Way, and then he used them throughout the building here at Kingswood. Now from the green lobby, you can see straight ahead that we could head out to the original study halls, what is now the library, looking next to a maquette of the Bull and Europa that famously sits in front of the Art Museum at the Academy. Also in this lobby is a sculpture by a former faculty member of Kingswood in the art department. And it's dedicated to a student from her classmates, and you're meant to actually spin it around and study all of these different pieces reflecting student life here at Kingswood. Then, of course, the director's office. And back here was originally the first library. As they got more books and needed more study space, the library moved, and Saarinen converted this into a study hall. But in the original library, we see another example of the Pewabic pottery tiles making this fireplace here, and these great plywood curved anchors on either side of the fireplace, and then reproduction weavings that are reproducing the original hand-woven curtains that were throughout the building, woven by the Swedish weavers of Studio Loja Saarinen. And these are pretty great reproductions. So just imagine that every classroom, dormitory, hallway, and public space had hand-woven curtains. And most of the public rooms featured one or more hand-woven rugs. Looking out, the gym now blocks the view, but originally you would have seen straight to the lake. This is the original library furniture, which belongs in this room, which was designed by Eero Saarinen, the son. He designed over 35 different types of pieces of furniture for Kingswood. Next, we'll head this way out of the green lobby. All of the corridors at Kingswood are single-loaded, and that just means that there's only rooms on one side, and so there's always light and windows coming in to the other side. It's a very expensive way of designing a building, but it's also a very beautiful way of bringing light into the interior. Now, the floor that I'm walking on is a pretty convincing reproduction of what was here originally, which were machine-made runners, woven rugs, on top of battleship linoleum. So the orange and this gold check all the way to the dark brown were battleship linoleum, and then there were carpets running down the center. In here, this was the original study halls, divided by level of girls, so juniors, middle schoolers, and then seniors all had different study halls. This was called the West Lobby, and it featured a monumental rug in orange and red tones. Looking out from this original lobby, you have one of my favorite windows at Cranbrook, and I love the way that the wood paneling on either side just dissolves into this glass design. Past a sculpture, we move into one of the original study halls, now part of the library, at the end of which is another Pewabic pottery fireplace. I love this fireplace for the way that the Pewabic tiles are used just as the end caps on these very subtle colonnettes, these sort of half circles coming down. Each of the study halls has a very different character. Here we have the sort of teal design with the decorative roof again. And then the last study hall with the coffered square ceiling leading to the square fireplace, which originally had a little teal bowl by Maya Grotel in the center, made at the Academy. Cranbrook schools have one of the most impressive art programs of any high school, and we're seeing much of your work here in the cases and on the walls from the weaving department, photography, fashion, sculpture, and then all the wonderful jewelry pieces from the metals department. Moving this direction from the green lobby, we pass the original phone booths, which have taken a fall from grace into broom closets, passing a lovely painting from Myron Barlow, who is a member of the Detroit Society of Arts and Crafts, marking the transition from the academic wing into the more public wing. Again, the window acting almost like a tapestry, and here flanked on either side with tapestries by Lillian Holm, who is a longtime instructor of weaving here at Kingswood and who immigrated from Sweden to work for Loya Saarinen at the Art Academy. And then the rose lobby, which is missing its rose curtains, its rose rugs, and only has its rose furniture, above which was the old faculty dining area. And then on the walls are the early graduates of Kingswood, including important mid-century modernist designer Florence Schust, who became Florence Knoll. Beyond the rose lobby is the entrance to the dormitories, and then on either side, the auditorium here. The auditorium would have originally had seating, folding metal chairs in the center, and around the outside, teal chairs designed by Eero Saarinen for the seniors. And so you worked your way up to be able to sit in the teal chairs. The curtain, which is made of fabricoid and velvet, was designed by Pipson Saarinen Swanson, who also designed these lovely stencils and the teal or aqua border that we see moving around the room. Her little brother designed the ceiling with the light fixtures that reflect light up into the domes. And then outside of this room, we get an understanding of just how thin Kingswood is. It's a long and narrow building with lots of terraces and balconies. And so from here we can look out and we can see Kingswood Lake. We can see the great trees, the berm used to try and stop flooding from the building. And as we look at the brickwork out here, we see the way that the horizontal mortar line is raked and the vertical mortar line is flush to increase the reading of the building as this very heavy horizontal, low, one with the earth work of architecture. And then huge, solid Mankato Kasota limestone columns carved with these great sort of telescoping headdresses. And then up above, we see the corner of heaven, the old ballroom, peeking out. Doors here are actually pocket doors, and so they can slide entirely open so that you have one clear room from the auditorium into the dining hall, which is a very softly lit, very beautiful, sort of Swedish fantasy of a dining room. The furniture is again designed by Eero Saarinen, now in this very Swedish neoclassical style inspired by Greek chairs called klismos chairs. The lighting comes from lamps by Walter van Nessen, but then also from fixtures that are tucked into little pockets up above. So you'll see that the shadows come out as triangles, mirroring the triangles of the clear story stained glass as well. And then at the front of the dining hall is one of the treasures of Cranbrook, one of the treasures of American weaving, the monumental Festival of the May Queen tapestry. There's the May Queen at center. She's flanked by her maidens on either side, including her loyal dog. On the left, the maiden hands her a tray of oranges. On the right, they're passing this sort of bouquet of butterflies or flowers, this sort of energy of peach and pinks flowing between the young maidens. Now, Pipson Saarinen, their daughter, she actually designed a dress that matched these maidens, so the family could stand here in this sort of temple to art and beauty and even match the room itself. Up above, you see the tree with peacocks flitting about, again repeating this motif of the stepped pyramid are telescoping forms. And then the entire tapestry is illuminated by these riveted aluminum light fixtures. Aluminum, a very new metal here in 1931. And at the top of the light fixtures are abstracted peacocks. And then at the bases are these star forms. Lastly, I want to head upstairs and show you one of my favorite spots at Kingswood. So we'll head past the dormitory entrance and the private courtyard, which has the sort of proto-art museum peristyle with the tall Mankato limestone columns and then the low hipped copper roof. And we'll keep moving up towards our destination, which is Old Scandinavia. And originally this was actually located closer to the Green Lobby, and it featured hand-woven rugs from Studio Loja Saarinen, Mrs. Saarinen and her Swedish weavers at the Art Academy. And the rugs came from the seat down and then onto the floor. It was moved here as the building has been renovated and changed, and unfortunately the rug is no longer used. But over in the corner, we see one of the great mistakes of the buildings turned into one of the great treasures of the building. This is Kitty Kingswood, who is sitting next to her swan. And the body of Kitty Kingswood is actually a pipe that did not fit in the building. And so it was placed slightly, just half an inch off by the contractor. Eliel Saarinen was called out and said, "What do you want to do? The pipe is sticking out into the wall. We can't have this." And Eliel Saarinen said, "I'll take care of this." And Eliel Saarinen studied painting before he studied architecture. And so after the wall was painted and the room was ready to go, he came up and he painted one of our mascots, Kitty Kingswood. I hope you've enjoyed these videos and that you've learned a little bit more about your high school. Good luck with your future. Enjoy your summer. Enjoy the next 4 years wherever they find you. And come back, enjoy the architecture, appreciate the remarkable campus that you were able to spend time on. We look forward to seeing you back here one day when the world has returned to normal.